Hello, I'm John Grom, and welcome to our Right and Left discussion forum. We hold our televised discussions twice monthly to demonstrate the value of civil, productive, open-minded political dialogue. Today, we will do something we call panel's choice. Each panelist will select a topic they would like to discuss and invite others to join in. Leading off today is Susan Hanlon, retired Dean of the College of Business at the University of Akron, followed by Patty Haskins, retired teacher of mathematics at Wadsworth Senior High, then Bryan Laubaugh, president of R&B Financial Services. Susan, what would you like to discuss today?
So I would like to discuss the America Party. And the whole, that's the one that Elon Musk wants to start. And, his platform, so to speak, and then just the whole issue of third parties. So do you want me to say anything more to get this going, or just?
Yeah, but first tell me what is it?
America Party, the America Party. That's the third party that Elon Musk wants to start.
Oh, okay.
So he wants to start. His big thing is that it would be focused on the deficit, and because he says that we basically, when it comes to the budget and to spending, we only have a one-party system right now. And I'm very concerned about the deficit. I mean, I think it could really be an issue, a thing that breaks this country down. And so I find it interesting, and he says that he's appealing to 80% of people who are in the middle, and they're not content with, if they're Democrats, they don't like how extreme the Democrats are. If they're Republicans, they don't like how extreme the Republicans are. And people feel like a lot of people feel like they don't belong to one of the two parties that we have right now. Of course, the whole thing with, go ahead.
Help me in on that.
Because the parties are so extreme. So, Trump is very extreme. I'm a Republican. I don't identify with sometimes I'm embarrassed to be a Republican because of how extreme and how uber, I guess you call it conservative. I don't know. But, and the Democrats seem to be, they've been taken over by extreme left people that probably a lot of Democrats don't really identify with that either.
So the third party would be called what?
America Party. Not very imaginative.
That's one of the complaints I've heard about that is that Musk does not really have the wherewithal to start a party. He doesn't really know all the ins and outs of this. I mean, he took his basis for doing this off of a very unscientific poll that he did X. One of the things I heard that was interesting, for example, in New York State, a party cannot have the name America in it. So for to establish that as his name for his party, he couldn't run in New York State. He'd have to have a different name for that. Just little things like that. I ask.
And every state's different.
Exactly. They set up their own rules. And I believe he asked Andrew Yang to help him out with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the same old, to me, it's similar to Trump. When Trump started out, a while ago, I really was like, okay, this is because he was talking about the deficit. He was talking about deregulation, and he was talking about having other countries, do their fair share in terms of, military and global security. I agreed with his premises. It's just, the way he implements it. And I don't think Musk, he doesn't have a clue, but does he have a good idea? I don't know.
Well, I think one thing with Elon Musk, he has the money to get the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when he has an idea, which I don't think it's a bad idea. I've had this complaint for some time, is that when on a national level, it seems that our elected officials get elected as a Republican and as Democrat. And then basically there's so much compromise, it's almost like uniparty.
Right.
And once everything is said and done, neither side feels as though they were heard.
Right.
And this latest thing with our deficit, and I thought it was interesting, the Secretary of the Treasury, and I think this is why Trump is harping on Chairman Powell so much, every basis point up or down in the Treasury is $1 billion worth of interest.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, and I never comprehended, it's hard to comprehend $1 trillion.
It is. And how can you keep doing this year after year after year?
Yeah, you can't. And Ray Dalio, you know, he wrote his book and he came out, he was on all the programs, the 3, 3, and 3 type of thing. That's what's got to save the country. Because we don't want to get into this debt spiral where we're just borrowing to pay the debt. And most of our taxes and most of our borrowings go to servicing the debt.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
That's the kiss of death. You know?
And, you know, I mean, and one thing I've read too is, and nobody has the nerve to do this because they're so worried about getting reelected. If they would just raise taxes and quit spending, you know, I mean, at some point, and I don't know why we can't do something like, you know, like we did in Wadsworth with the streets. The street, you know, part of the income tax goes on for 10 years at a time. Yeah. And then it expires. And so why couldn't we do, it'd be like like they used to sell war bonds. And they say, you know, we're going to do this for 5 years and then we'll see where we are.
Yeah.
But no one, I mean, the idea of raising, like they won't even let the words come out of their mouths. Yeah.
Well, one of the issues is, you know, most people would say we have more of a spending problem than actual problem collecting money and, you know, a revenue issue. We don't.
But now we have the interest problem.
Well, that's one of the concepts that I don't think people understand.
No, they don't.
To me, when he said, you know, a basis point, not at 1%. This is a fraction of a percent. A basis point is 1/100th of 1% is $1 billion in interest. And that's why Trump is continuing to harp to bring interest rates down so that when they refinance, obviously they refinance, you know, they have to refinance the debt. That saves, you know, their savings there. So.
Okay, well, Patty, what is the topic you'd like to share?
Well, I wanted to discuss the big bill that was passed recently in order to for our budget for the United States. I have so many problems with this. I am extremely surprised, actually, that it passed due to the fact that in public opinion and in all polls, it's under by about 20 points from those who favor it to don't favor it. And yet it was still pushed through, and there were so many congressmen and senators that were supposedly on the Republican side that were opposed to it and got last minute threats from Trump to pass it, or we're going to primary you. So we go along with it. You know, my concerns, first of all, is the income tax break. You know, Susan just said we need to maybe increase income tax. So what did we do? We made cuts that were there. We're trying to make them permanent, and we decreased taxes for those on the higher end. In this tax cut, we're being sold a bill of goods because by percentages, the rich get a bigger break than the poor. Now, I'm not meaning amounts. I mean, obviously, the poor are not going to have to pay.
Yeah, they don't pay.
The rich. However, even by percentages, the rich are getting more of a break than the poor. And it's been found that it's going to cost the poor money in the long run as to what they have to pay. So, I mean, this is not a deal.
The poor, excuse me, Patty, but the poor don't pay taxes. Right?
There are poor though that do. I mean, if you're talking, I think I was saying under, it was like, it depends. I think it was like 50,000. You're going to end up having to pay more. So, this is going to be a problem for them. The other thing I saw as a problem was what they're using to save money is Medicaid and SNAP programs. Now, granted, there is, and they keep saying, well, we're just doing fraud and abuse.
Yeah.
No, that's not what they're doing. They're actually going, I think there's something, I forget how many millions, 17 million or so people will end up uninsured with the extension of this program and taking people off of Medicaid, most of whom are children and disabled. Most of the people that are on Medicaid, this dropping of programs is really going to hurt a lot of red states that are in favor of this, but it's going to hurt them because of the high number of people that they have in their state or in their area that are receiving Medicaid payments or SNAP payments. Instead of, again, going through with a surgical look at this, they are simply just cutting. Now, why are they making these cuts? So that they can have this huge tax break for the rich, but also to supply additional money to the military. And the one I really have a problem is 190 billion going to ICE. Now, granted, I think that Trump has done an excellent job in shutting down the border. Everyone would agree with that. We need to make that change. But the way that ICE has been mobilized to deport aliens that are in the country right now, that's where I have the problem. And this
what is your problem with deporting illegal aliens?
Well, when this was first proffered as a solution, it was said we're going to go after those that have committed crimes, that are gang members. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is targeting immigrants that have lived here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, who have not committed a crime, who are paying taxes, contributing to communities. And we have sent not only ICE, but the military out to round them up and send them to somewhere, including Sudan, to be in a prison simply because they were in this country, even though they are providing services in the country. We have Trump that is saying and comes out and says, well, we're going to help our farmers because the farmers need these workers, and that we're not going to do it for those that work in the hospitality industry. But then you have Kristi Noem and others and Stephen Miller that come back and say, nope, we're going to get rid of everyone. So what we end up with is cases in California, for example, where a gentleman that had lived here, I believe, 30 to 40 years, has three sons in the military. And he was hauled up and deported with no chance to even save the man or to keep him here because he was such a threat to this country. This man wasn't a threat. We see on the streets people being stopped and rousted and detained and taken into custody that are actually citizens. I saw one where the gentleman was trapped by 3 or 4 of these agents. He had his ID with him. He is an American citizen, and they still took him in and arrested him. And this is happening time and time again.
He was a citizen?
I'm not, I haven't heard, I guess I'm not watching the right news programs because I haven't heard of anybody that's been here 30 years that's been a citizen that's been scooped up. Now, I know that they've been going to places like in Arizona, and I will tell you that, I have relatives that live in Arizona, and that was a frequent place to get very inexpensive labor for a couple of days. Was you show up at the Home Depot, there's 3 or 4 guys standing around, you need to get a little lawn work done, or you need your irrigation system fixed, and you pick them up, you feed them lunch, and they work in your yard. They did great work. And then what happened to Patty?
Yeah.
There you oh, where's Patty at?
I don't know.
So I guess I have not heard about the 30-year person or the 20-year person.
I haven't either.
I think the devil's in the details. I think a lot of these people that are getting scooped up that are saying that they're innocent, they're just here because they crossed illegally, they've had orders in place for multiple orders, deportation orders, that they just ignored.
Right.
You know, so that's like ignoring a warrant. And when you get pulled over and they run your tag and they run your driver's license and it comes back that you have wants and warrants in Summit County or Portage County and they haul you in, it's like, well, wait a second. I mean, what are you talking about? So I just haven't heard about the.
Well, it is happening, and you know, unfortunately, we're seeing things.
About that, Patty, where do you get that information?
I read it in the newspaper. I have seen it on television. If you're only watching certain stations, you're not going to see this. I saw the interviews with these people. I saw them being arrested. I watched and saw how in MacArthur Park this past weekend, we really valuable use of soldiers and ICE on horses going into the park. I don't know what for, just to intimidate people, showing up at that Home Depot and arresting everyone that is there. And you know, one of the
Well,
problems.
I don't know how you decide who you're going. I mean, if you're here illegally, you're here illegally. Like, you know, I mean, right now, the way the laws stand, there is no, well, but if you haven't committed a crime, if you know, that's not the law. And if you start, I mean, we are a country of laws. We're a nation of laws, and a lot of them are stupid. A lot of them have unintended consequences. And that's probably what we're seeing now. But that's, you know, that's what Congress should do, and they don't, is fix or get rid of some of these laws. Yeah. But it's the law.
I would agree with you.
There's no statute of limitations on these particular types of things. And going back to my example, if I got a ticket and I was supposed to go to court in Summit County, and I never went, and I didn't get pulled over for 15 years. Right. And I finally got pulled over, and the trooper runs my license and says, you know, you have an outstanding warrant in Summit County. Guess what? You're going to jail that night. Yep. And I think that's one of the issues is people think, well, I've been here and I've raised my family here, so they need to basically grant me some, you know, wave the wand of amnesty and I should be okay. Well, that's not how it works. And when we tried, I know when the Congress tried to put in place,
I don't believe
a program that said, okay, if you've been here, here's a pathway for you to get your citizenship. It was, I mean, you couldn't get it through Congress because the folks on the other side of the aisle were saying, I remember George Bush II was trying to do something because his wife was Hispanic. They were trying to put something in place. But the people on the left were saying, no, it has to be just clean amnesty. You just have to do blanket. Everybody,
well, because they don't want to solve the problem. If you solve the problem, there's nothing to campaign on. There's nothing to get people all wound up.
I really object to the fact that you would say that the left doesn't want to solve the problem. They do.
They don't. No, they don't.
And
none of them
in
do.
the past administration, they had a bill that was going to reform immigration. And it was the Republicans that voted it down. So
but the problem with that reform was is that the 4 million people that came in, they just wanted to ignore. You know, and I saw that interview with Holman. He was saying, you know, why didn't the Biden administration use all these beds we had for ICE? If you put the person that came here, we captured them at the border. They came across illegally. We put them in the facility. They're in the ICE bed. They would get a summary judgment or whatever within days. Longest was like 2 weeks. But if you put them out if you just let them go and put them up in a hotel in New York at $500 a night, then their court date is now 5 years or 6 years. So
Well,
you see what I'm saying? They did
in
some
New York
little
is a
things there that they got around the rules, they got around the law, and now all of a sudden we have this issue that is larger than life.
Well, if you look at polls on this issue, this round up everybody and deport them is not a popular issue.
It doesn't matter if it's popular. That's when we get in trouble.
I agree.
We have populists.
Yeah.
But it is not
I
something that I agree.
I will tell you this. No other country has a porous border as we do. And I've said this time and time again. I had 2 kids that served church missions, one in Spain for 2 years, one in Germany for a year and a half. Practically every day they were stopped. When my daughter would go to the post office to pick up her package, she was required to show her passport, her visa. They checked it there. They went through, they took out the candy. You know, I don't know why in Germany would they take out the candy, but they searched the bag. They searched the package. My son in Spain was required to carry his papers with him, and they were stopped repeatedly. And so we can't have what's going on, today with our immigration, because no other country does that. They just don't. They don't let it get out of control. So I'm betwixt and between on it. And yeah, I just think we've got to do something.
My concern is the money that's being given to ICE. We now have this private militia army that is out there that is bigger than the entire Israeli army. They are being used in areas I personally just do not feel they should be. They are masking up supposedly for their own protection.
Yeah.
They're being doxxed.
Unfortunately, what's happening now is there have been cases across the country where people are dressing up as ICE and going out and taking people away and apprehending them, and they're not members of ICE, and it's hard to tell.
Part of the solution is the rhetoric has to stop. The rhetoric has to stop about, did you read about the 12 or 15 people that showed up at that ICE detention facility that were shooting fireworks at it? That the one guy had a gun and took a couple of pot shots at some people. And
yeah, I heard that, but that
finally the police showed up and the ICE agents came out.
Arrested, you should be able to identify yourself and say where you're from. And ICE members are not doing that. And, well, thank God, though, we've built alligator Alcatraz that's going to cost us $450 million a year to maintain, so that we can save the country from these horrible immigrants. I'm sorry.
Well, we need immigrants. Our system we need them. And there are plenty of good ones, no doubt. But Patty, I just think you're reacting, or you're to all this extreme stuff. And I would bet that everyone, you don't ever read about, ICE went out and they did things correctly, whatever that is, I don't know. And they, picked up people that needed to be picked up without incident and went on about their business.
I agree with that. And I started this entire discussion by saying that I do agree with that. They serve their purpose, but just this all or nothing approach without taking any time or effort for immigration reform, which is what we need. It shouldn't take 10 years to be able to come into this country legally. There's just so many.
There are so many simple solutions. I mean, if they took let's just hire a bunch of people like we hired for TSA, and let's, process immigrants. You could fix it. They don't want to fix it.
Right. They could hire 100,000 immigration judges, because there's enough attorneys out there. You can't swing a dead cat without finding somebody with a law degree.
Yeah, you're hired for 3 years or something,
I've said this before, that that's one of the solutions. They just simply don't have enough judges to process
Right.
all.
Right.
You could make somebody a judge with the signature.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, a friend of mine was an administrative assistant to Social Security, judge. When people have a complaint, it goes before a committee, yada, yada, goes to the judge. And guy was a lawyer. She was sort of like a law assistant, a law clerk type of thing. She wasn't the attorney. The guy only did like 5 cases a week. And a case takes maybe an hour or two to review. All the work has been done by somebody. All he has to do is say, look at his computer and go, okay, fine, boom. I mean, talk about a government job. Come on. Let's start processing. There's no reason why someone that has a complaint for Social Security or Medicare has to wait a year to get it adjudicated. So yeah, I think there's some I would agree with Susan and Patty. I agree with some of the things that you see in the news. I'm just skeptical of. So.
Right.
Patty, I have a question. Do you believe that somebody that's in this country illegally should be allowed to stay?
Yes.
So the law doesn't mean anything?
No, I didn't say that. I just think that some should be able to be. I think there should be some way that they can stay. If they have,
they could go home and then come back in through the proper channel.
Yeah.
Well, and wait another 10 years.
That's the problem.
Well,
they can't.
I guess I've just been around long enough. Mitt Romney had a program and he was pilloried. I mean, they just ripped him up for it. His notion was, if you were here for so many years, there was a pathway.
I remember that. That's one of the reasons I voted for him.
Yeah, there wasn't. You didn't need to leave the country. There could have been some fines associated with it. Yeah. But they did a background check, all that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, he put dogs on the top of his car in a kennel. Oh, he was hiring people. I mean, they just ripped that guy apart. So every time there is a viable solution, it's never good enough. So I agree. There needs to be.
I want to offer a very spirited discussion, and unfortunately, we're over time. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. If you come up with an idea for a topic next time, please let me know.
Okay.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.